and welcome back to another episode of Backstage Spotlight. Today I'm joined with the Olivier award-winning Matt Cole.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining me. This is going to be a very exciting episode, and I am excited to speak to you about your journey in training and how you actually came to be a choreographer.
Fantastic.
So let's go back to the very beginning. What were you like as a child, and how did you know that you wanted to perform in the industry?
That happened quite a lot of things in my life and in my career have happened quite randomly and not with much sort of thought. But when I was young and when I was a kid, I was one of those children that had a lot of energy.
Yes.
And I was sort of bouncing off the walls, and my parents didn't quite know what to do with me.
Yeah.
So very early on, actually, when I was young, they sent me to a gymnastics club.
Right.
And that's when I sort of just started using my body physically in a way that, I could just chuck myself around the room, and my parents hoped it got enough energy out of me that I would sleep at night. And it did that, and I loved it. But then when I started performing late, I was at secondary school, and we went on a school trip up to London, and we saw Starlight Express.
Wow.
And I remember sitting in the auditorium, and to me, it was magical watching these performers on stage. And I came home and I said, I want to do that. And I must have been 13. So I've been doing gymnastics up until then.
Yes.
And at 13, I went to my parents and said, I want to do that. And my mum and dad said, okay, I think you probably need to be able to learn how to dance. And I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
So my dad got out a book that was called The Yellow Pages.
Yes.
It was where you sort of went through, and it had all the local businesses listed, and they found the local dance school. And my dad phoned up and said, can my son come and join? And I went down and I joined the local dance school at 14, and that's how I started.
Amazing. And alongside school and everything, how did you find that making that step to professional training? And obviously you trained here at Lane Theatre Arts. The audition process, I know that it has become clearer nowadays in schools, and we have more outreach, and social media plays a big part in that. But a lot of people I talk to say that they were like the first from their village to go off and train professionally. What was that experience like for you?
I didn't really know what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to do it professionally or not. So once I'd started at the local dance school, I was the only boy in the local dance school, and it was an ISTD school.
Yeah.
So the dance teacher, I was 14 years old, and she said, well, you've never done anything before, so you have to go and learn, grade 1 ballet. So I was in a ballet class at 14 years old, the only boy, doing grade 1 ballet with these tiny little girls stood there. And it was that I found that really difficult, but I just persevered through it. And then when I got to 16 and I'd finished sort of GCSEs and all of that was done, I didn't think I was ready to go to professional theatre school. So I went to sixth form college and did my A-levels.
Yes.
And then after doing my A-levels, I thought maybe I'll just go to university. So I applied to universities. But at the same time, my local dance school teacher said, you should probably apply for theatre schools. So I went, okay, which ones? And they gave me, a choice of I think I applied for Performers, Arts Ed and Lane.
Yeah.
And applied to them, then eventually made the decision to come to Lanes.
Yeah, amazing. And when you were at Lane, what were you like as a student? Were you shy? Were you a bit of a rebel?
I was definitely shy in my first year. I felt really not intimidated by, but in awe of the talent that was above me in the second and third year. In this building here, you can look through the windows into the studios. And I remember looking in the windows, and it was the first time I'd seen other male dancers and other male performers.
Yes.
So I hadn't ever experienced that before. So I was looking in a window going, oh my God, they're amazing. They're fantastic. And that can sometimes make you feel, oh God, I'm not sure I can ever be like that. But at the same time, I was somebody that I would look through the window and be like, no, I want to be like that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do what they can do. And I feel very lucky that I grew up in a time, especially at college here, where mobile phones and social media wasn't a thing. So all you concentrated on was what was in the room,
Yeah.
what was there in the room. And you just looked at it and you went, I want to be like that. So I kept my head down for the sort of definitely for first and second year. I was quite under the radar. And then it was only really in my third year that I sort of had the confidence to go, here I am, you know, let me have a go at this.
What would you say was the biggest challenge that you faced making that transition from your home life to professional training?
I think just the exhaustion of how tiring it was and that you were responsible for yourself
Yeah.
and that you had to get yourself through it. I think up until then I'd lived at home and you had your parents that would cook you food and they'd do
Do your
your
washing.
washing. Yeah, all of that stuff. And suddenly I got here, nobody was doing that. You had to do your own, you had to be there on time, you had to have the right uniform, you had to make sure you had enough food to eat. Those were the big
Yeah, on
challenges.
top of a 12-hour day.
On top, yeah, exactly.
If you could look back and do something differently at your during your time in college, would there be anything?
I would have gone to tap. That was I enjoyed tap. I did enjoy it, but it wasn't the thing that I was strongest at.
Yes.
So, and like anything, and it's the same thing I say to students now, like the thing you're not strong at is the thing you should work on the most.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that I got there, and I'd started it late, and eventually I got good at it in my time there, but I really shied away from it in my first and second year. And I think if I in hindsight and looking back, we worry so much about what people think of us. We stand in a classroom because we were at an age when you're in college and you're looking next to you and going, I don't want to get it wrong in case I embarrass myself. If I could go back with that knowledge now, I wouldn't worry about that. I would go,
Yeah.
I'm just going to try my best. And if I get it wrong, I get it wrong. And
Yeah, it's
you know,
I get a lot of people saying, for example, singing classes and rep where you have that opportunity to stand up and sing in front of your peers. People say that in first year it's just absolutely terrifying, but then by
yeah,
third year it's just the norm, and it's
yeah,
getting through that transition stage of it being uncomfortable, and then the more you put like your 100% in, the more you get out of it.
yeah, yeah. I think that. I think that's sort of half the point of college. Yes, you're there to train and you're there to do all of your skills training and all of those things. But I think part of what it is to overcome your fears, is the things that make you feel uncomfortable, whether that be standing up and singing, whether that be competing in a dance audition or any of those things, is to overcome the anxiety of how that makes you feel so that when you go out into the real world, you'll still have those feelings, you'll still have that anxiety and those things, but you just know how to combat it. You know how to regulate it so that you can keep going.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about third year then, because it's a very hard year. Agent showcase, third year musicals, the summer show, people going off early, already having booked jobs. What advice would you give to third years in that position where there's the pressure of not knowing where they're going to live the next year, if they're even going to have a job, agents?
The biggest thing in third year is to remove the time pressure on yourself. And that it's not a race, and there's not a finish line ever. You don't ever finish this career, that you never cross a line and go, right, I've got to the end of this career. It just keeps going. So there's the time limit you have to remove from it. It doesn't matter ever whether you're the first one to get a job or the last one to get a job. You might be out of college 6 months, a year before you land your first professional job. And I've seen that happen over 25 years, countless times, where students have come to me and gone, I think I might give up. I've been out of college a year, I haven't booked a job. And my advice is always the same. If you still want to do it, keep going, keep going. And then you see, if they keep going, they'll get it. It will come. And that's happened to several people I know that were at the point of going, I don't want to do it. It's too hard. It's too competitive. All my friends have got jobs. I haven't. And then eventually they get the job And then they get the next job and the next job and the next job. And then they're in the West End and then they're flying and they're off. And so much of that is to do with the landscape of what's going on in theatre at the time, of which you are not in control of. If a certain style of show is on in the West End or on tour, then those people that are right for those shows will gravitate and will get the work first. But that changes and fluctuates over years, and that style disappears and a new style comes in. Suddenly you're right. And those people that got the jobs have to wait while somebody else comes in because those people are now right for those roles. So there's very little you can do other than try and relinquish that sense of putting the time pressure on yourself and just continue to train, continue to work hard, continue to do what you can do. If you need to get, a side job to keep going, then you do that. But if it's still something that you want to do, just hold on to that passion.
Yeah, that's really important to cling on to, especially if you are in that position, leaving college and just not knowing what's next, really.
I think it's also you've had 3 years in college where you've known from day to day, you've been told what you're going to do.
Yes.
You've had a structure given to you all the time, and where you've had questions you can ask, and where you've had doubts or you can ask, and suddenly that goes, and it goes back to now it's on you. You've got to do it. And that's hard. It's a difficult thing to jump over onto that hurdle.
It's having to uphold the structure of your life as well, without going from these long, busy days to having to set yourself your schedule, like going to classes, seeing what's on.
Yeah.
But then again, like, it's so hard because classes cost money. You have to make money. Do you get a side job, as you were saying? It's such a pressurizing time. But hearing people like that have been really successful going through the same experience when they left college can be really reassuring.
And I think you have to remember that, like, we've all done it. I left college and I I remember like handing out flyers on a street corner for a gym because I needed extra money and I couldn't pay the rent, getting jobs in restaurants, just so that I could pay for a singing lesson or I could pay to go and have a dance class. And it goes to, if you want it and you have that passion, you'll do those things.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about your work as a director, choreographer. How did that transition come about in your career?
So I never looked for it, and it was never on my radar to do it. It wasn't something that I had a burning ambition to become a director or choreographer. It was a very natural transition. I was really lucky in that at a time when I left college, the shows that were around I was right for, and I did 15 years of sort of back-to-back shows as a performer.
Wow.
And loved it, absolutely loved it. Went on tour, went around the world, worked in the West End, and got to work with some amazing people and do these big shows, which was really fantastic. And then eventually I was in a production of Guys and Dolls for the Donmar Warehouse, and I'd done a year in the show, and then they asked me to stay on for a second year, and the choreographer came to me and said, "Would you like to be the dance captain?" I thought, okay, I've never done that before. And I was like, yeah, sure, okay, I'll give that a go. And so I became the dance captain, and I really enjoyed the process of solving problems, because a lot of it is that somebody goes off or somebody, you've got swings and you've got to solve what the problem is. And I really enjoyed doing that. And then from there, I began to assist. And one of the first people that I assisted was Karen Bruce. And I owe a lot to her because she showed me how she puts a number together, how she counts out the music, how she writes her ideas down, how she navigates just the thought process before she starts. And I learned that from her, and I assisted her on a couple of things. And then from there, got asked to choreograph my own things. I went into a lot of colleges, actually, lots of different colleges, and started teaching and doing choreography within colleges. That was a really good place to experiment of what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. and get to how do I communicate ideas, and they were really good places to learn that. And then it just grew from there. I got asked to do panto, and then from that I got asked, would I be the associate on something? And it just kept going, and I just kept going. But there were definitely moments through all of it where it felt dry, like I couldn't see what the next job was, or I didn't know what was around the corner, and it felt scary.
Yeah.
And even now with the things that I've done and some of the success that I've had, I still look around the corner thinking, I don't know what's coming. But I've learned to know something will come, then you just keep going.
Yeah. So nowadays, what would you say your choreographic process was, having taken inspiration from Karen Bruce, for example? What is the process from getting the show, the job that you're doing, to then the first rehearsal?
So I work backwards in terms of the steps. The actual choreographic steps are the last thing that you do.
Right.
That's the thing you do at the very end. And sometimes you don't do it till you're in the room. It's all the stuff before. It's talk. First of all, I want to meet with the director. And if I'm the director, then I want to meet with myself. And what is their vision? What is their idea? What is the tone of the piece? What story do they want to communicate in the show? Then you want to meet, or I want to meet with the designer and go, what's it going to look like? What is on stage? What visually, what's the tone of the piece? What's it going to look like? And how will my work fit into what's already being created? What world is being created? And then how do I fit into that? Then I go away and I generally try and, if I know there's room for me to sort of create my own dance arrangements, I would storyboard exactly what I think the story looks like. So you would look at the point at which the choreography takes over from the singing, or from the dialogue, and you go, where are we? Who are these characters? What story needs to be told in this moment of dance?
Yes.
What's the feeling? Are they happy? Are they sad? Are they angry? Are they moved? What do I want the audience to feel? Should this be joyous? Should it be a celebration? Or is it more complex than that? And then I would write a story of bullet points of storyboarding. And that can be pages and pages of, if you were reading it, it reads like a book.
Yeah.
Like chapters of a book. And then I would give that to a musical arranger, a dance arranger, which might be the musical supervisor. And they would go away and take that story and orchestrate a soundscape, a score to it. And then we would meet and we would talk through it, and we would go, okay, that's great, but that this moment here, I really think it should be like really dramatic. Could we have like more big heavy bass drums going? This bit needs to feel light. Could it have this feel to it? This bit could have a stop because I want the audience to take a breath. And we'd really sort of visualize what it would look like with the sound of how we would hear it. And once all of that is done, then I meet in a room with my associate or my assistant and go, right, what steps should we do to this? And if you've gone, for me, if I've gone through that process, I know what the story is, and I know what every bit of that music is there for, why we've got it there. And then the creation of the actual steps is more fluid.
Yes.
It comes to me easier because I know what everything is there for.
That's really interesting, because I suppose a lot of people see the choreography and don't actually think about what happens before, but most of the work is in fact before meeting with the dancers and putting the steps onto the stage, really.
And meeting with dance, I always sort of think I go in the room with 75% of the steps done, and I allow for 25% to see what the dancers bring into the room.
Yes,
because
that collaboration.
Because often you go in there and I've choreographed something, but you see out the corner of your eye somebody doing something, and you go, oh, what are you doing? Like, how have you done that? And you see they bring their own personality and flavor to it. and you want to be able to, you know, you want that to be malleable. You want to be able to sort of pull from how they interpret your work and your ideas and see how they bring stuff to life.
Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about being on the other side of a panel, as someone taking the audition. When you're auditioning for pieces and say a dance call, what would be the thing that you look for initially?
I think initially I look for people, the very first thing I look at is who wants to be there. And I know that sounds like a really odd thing to say because the assumption is that everybody wants to be there because they've turned up.
Yeah.
And I actually always start every audition by just thanking everybody for that, for turning up, because it costs money, it takes
Yeah, of
time,
course.
it's, you know, it takes a lot of willpower to even get there and be there. But you're looking for those people that are hungry to get it right, are hungry for your idea, that they're there with you, and that you sit and look at them and think, I want to spend 4, 5, 6 weeks in a room creating with you. And then, of course, you're looking for all the usual things. Do they execute the choreography the way you want it? Do they have the technique that you want? Are they interpreting, you know, the detail that you're putting across? And actually, most people in a choreograph will, I always put very specific details in, and then you look to see, do they do it? Or are they
Yes.
ignoring those things? And you're looking for all of those things. But so much of it for me is based on personality. Who's bringing joy to the room? Who's bringing personality into the room? Who is going to make this rehearsal period enjoyable to me? Because I'm a big believer that if the room is fun and comfortable, you will get so much more out of everybody.
Yeah.
And so you're looking for all of those things in the room.
Yeah, that's auditions can be hard as someone going to them because, like we were talking about earlier, those gaps and not having jobs and just going to auditions after auditions and being turned away. There's that side of the industry that can be quite defeating. Like you get up and go to those auditions, and it's really nice that you say, well, thank you for coming. And I just wanted to ask you about your audition experience and whether there was any points where you felt like you didn't really want to go to them anymore, or how you could like push through that.
I definitely had auditions that I left the room feeling I felt humiliated.
Mm,
And not because they had made me feel like I felt like that. They hadn't
yeah,
made me feel like that,
yeah.
but I felt the fact that I couldn't do it or I got it wrong, or we danced in fours and I forgot, I couldn't remember what the routine was and I got it wrong.
Mm,
And then, you know, there was this awful moment where they sort of go, right, can the following people please stay? And then you have to go and pick up your bag and walk out the room,
yeah.
and your friend stayed and you didn't. And, you know, you would feel humiliated by that. I try not to do that in any of my auditions, actually. I try not to make any cuts in the room.
That's nice.
That everybody dances and then everybody goes, or we
Yeah,
hear everybody sing.
yeah,
Because I just hated that feeling when I did it. And I think it just came with practice of going in the room, getting cut from an audition, allowing myself to feel, okay, fine, I'm not right for that. And then picking yourself up and going, okay, I'll carry on, I'll go to the next one. And so much of it is just your personal ability to go to pick yourself back up again and push yourself through. But it's hard.
yeah.
It is difficult. And I definitely experienced it the same as everybody else.
And look at you now, Olivier award winning. How was that night? I mean, seeing your speech when you received that award, I mean, watching it was amazing, but how did you feel?
I felt incredibly honoured and privileged to be nominated.
Yeah.
And then on the day, I felt sick and nervous. I didn't enjoy the entire day until after the actual moment. My heart rate sitting there in the audience, because my category was in the second half. And I remember sitting in there and I had my whole family there and I had my friends and everyone was with me, and that was amazing. And you do this weird thing where you think, oh, okay, I've been put at the side. I'm right at the back at the side. That's where they've sacked me. So I thought, oh, I haven't won. You know, it
Yeah.
must be someone that's down in the middle bit. They would have won. And so you think, okay, it's not going to be me. It's not going to be me. And then you watch all these different people go up and make their speeches, and you're like, okay, well, that person's really funny. And you go, okay. And then somebody else go, okay, that person made everybody cry. And then I had something written, if I thought, okay, if I am going to win, I was nervous. So I had something written down on paper. And then in the interval, I thought, okay, no one else is reading off a piece of paper. So I thought, okay, if you do win, you can't use the piece of paper. That made me more nervous. And when they got to the category, my heart rate was 100 miles an hour. And then they called my name out, and I think I just went into training mode, as in the thing we do at college, or your training kicks in. You go, right, up you go up there, make a speech.
Like fight or flight.
You're on, like that thing of going, you're on.
Yeah.
You're on, you've got to do it. And I don't really remember that much about standing up there and doing it. I remember being, the best bit of it was the party afterwards, because the relief hit, that you'd sort of, the moment was done. But it was amazing. It was an amazing night.
Yeah, what an amazing achievement. And now full circle working at Lane.
Yeah, back here.
How do you feel about that?
I love it. I think I've worked in many different colleges, and I've had fantastic experiences in all of them, but there was something very special about coming back here, and the feeling that even though I'm still working, and even though I'm still going out and directing and choreographing, that I hope I have the ability to come in here and impart some kind of knowledge to the students that helps them on their own journey. I have a lot to be grateful for what the opportunities that were given to me while I was here. And I've always loved working with students, and I've always loved being in a room and being creative with them. Their brains work differently, and they offer you things that out there in the industry you sort of have to fight a bit harder. Students are they're more willing to offer you more straight away, which I love from them. Yeah, it has its challenges.
I can imagine. All the paperwork.
Yeah, I give that to somebody else. But I love it. I love the energy of it.
Yes.
I love seeing people achieve. I love an underdog. I love seeing somebody that's been in the background for a while step forward in their own time. I love watching that journey, because that was me. I was that one.
Yeah.
I wasn't always at the front, always in the limelight. I like seeing those people that are just sort of hovering in the corner,
working at it, yeah.
just working, and then slowly they step forward a bit more. I champion those people, and I love seeing their journeys.
Yeah. What an amazing job to have, and that routine has kicked back in again, and coming to work, having that social life of coming here. What is next for you? This podcast will be out around mid-June. What's coming up?
So I'm at the moment I'm going to a show called The Baker's Wife at the Menier Chocolate Factory, which is a Stephen Schwartz show. So I'm very, very excited to go and do that. I love working there. One of my first sort of big breaks was Fiddler on the Roof with Trevor Nunn, and that was out of the Chocolate Factory. So it feels very sort of, for me, you know, a lovely warm place to go back to and to create in, and we've got a fantastic cast. And then later on in the year, very differently, I go into the Steps musical Here and Now. We've done a workshop for that already, which went very, very well, but we do the big, you know, the show goes out in October, November time up in Birmingham. So that is what I'll be working on through the summer.
Nice.
And getting into that, be good fun.
Exciting, really exciting. And you have the summer show here.
I've got the big Lane Theatre Arts 50th Gala summer show.
Huge anniversary, which will be fantastic.
It's a busy time.
Yeah, definitely. Let's have a quick fire question round.
Okay.
Favorite colour?
Green.
Favorite animal?
Dog.
Favorite movie?
Dirty Dancing.
Favorite artist?
Warhol.
Favorite song?
Oh, I've got too many. Got
Top
too
three.
many. Top three favorite songs. Anything by Queen. Can I do artists?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, anything by Queen. I'm a huge Madonna fan. No one will know that.
Then. Ooh.
And anything by, well, I love listening to any sort of Jerry Herman song. That's such an eclectic random mix.
Nice. Good though.
Yeah.
Good. Favorite car brand?
Range Rover.
Oh, Range Rover. Favorite dog breed?
Miniature poodle.
Favorite dance style?
Tech jazz.
Nice. And last but not least, favorite musical?
God, that's hard. I think I love Oklahoma.
Oh, a classic.
I do like a
Real
classic, yeah.
classic. And the last question I always ask all of my podcast guests is if you could nominate someone to come on my podcast and impart their knowledge, and I'll reach out to them and try and get them on, who would it be?
Ruthie Henschel.
Oh, what a good episode that would be.
I remember being, when I was at college, she'd just gone into Chicago as the lead.
Wow.
And I remember going, so it was at the Adelphi Theatre. And at the time you could buy like £5 tickets and stand right at the back of the dress circle. And I remember going like 5, 6, 7, 8 times and just watching her and being mesmerized by her.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she would make a fantastic episode.
Yeah.
Bet she has loads of stories up her sleeve as well.
I think she has many a story up her sleeve. Yeah.
Well, listen, thank you so much, Matt. It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you to everyone listening.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.